Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day. Guys, in today's video, I want to take a look at the big raid events that we had almost over the last year. Yeah, so in August last year, that's when the first big event started, which was the Asgard event. And I want to talk about the different event dungeons, the champions that we were able to get during these events. How did the events change? What was better? What did I like more? Also, what wasn't so good, in my opinion, and some of the situations that happened in like during those events, at least those that I remember. Today's video is sponsored by Marvel Strike Force. If you haven't played it yet, Marvel Strike Force is a squad-based RPG where you build teams of your favorite Marvel heroes and villains such as Spider-Man, Deadpool, and Doctor Doom, and go head-to-head in some seriously intense tactical battles. I've been experimenting with different combos and strategies, and it's wild how deep this game goes, especially once you start leveling up and jumping into PvP modes like Arena and Alliance War. You can download the game for free using my link in the description, or just scan the QR code right there. It's so much fun to start building your squad from day one. I've been playing Marvel Strike Force and it's super entertaining. The animations are epic and creating the perfect team is really challenging in a good way. As a lifelong Marvel fan, I love seeing all these characters come to life. One of my favorites is Deadpool, not only for his humor, but because he's an absolute powerhouse in combat. And he's just one of many. The roster is huge with new characters and events constantly being added, keeping the game fresh and exciting. And right now is honestly the perfect time to jump in, to celebrate the Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four first steps. Marvel Strike Force is giving away the entire Fantastic Four team for free. That's Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Human Torch, completely free. Just use the promo code MSF4 after downloading the game and you'll get a full team that'll carry you through the early game. Seriously, don't miss out. Use my link or scan the QR code to download the game, and don't forget to enter the code MSF4 to grab your Fantastic Four squad before it's gone. So the first event was the Asgard event, and that started in August the 21st last year. And it was the first event, right? So they introduced the event dungeon with this big event, and at the same time, the pinpoint set, which was really big hype at that moment because it looked like it was the answer to polymorph, right? Because polymorph was really a big problem at that time in the arena, in my opinion. And even, before that, because we didn't have relics yet, there wasn't really a counter to sheeps, right? So with the event dungeon, the pinpoint set got introduced, and we had some form of counter, to crowd control debuffs in general. So we got the pinpoint set and the intercept buff. And with all three of these new events, these big events, they introduced new champions, right? Which we were able to get through different events and tournaments. And for the Asgard event, I was actually a little bit late to the party. I came back to raid when the Thor fusion was like 2 weeks in, something like that, and there was no way for me to catch up on the Thor fusion. But that's how you were able to get Thor, right? He was a fusion. Then we had Loki, which was the login champion. Freya, which was guaranteed from a deck. And then we had Odin, where you had to place first on a champ chase tournament. So out of those 4 champions, I was able to get Loki, obviously, just by logging in. And then I got Freya from the deck of Fate. Like I said, unfortunately, I didn't get Thor, but he turned out to be a really solid PvE nuker. And a lot of, champions are being compared to him when they are being tested. So out of those 4, I would say Odin had the biggest impact on the arena with his 40% void aura. Then I would say Thor had the biggest impact on PvE content, especially Hydra, now with Faction Wars Hard as well. He's very strong in there. And Freya was also really game-changing in the arena due to her passive. So Odin was kind of like the go first champion, and Freya was kind of like the go second. But you can also build her with speed. She has a turn meter boost. But most people were using her in kind of like a go second team. So I would say Odin was the, had a little bit more impact than Freya on the arena. And Loki, obviously, also a very solid champion. A little bit underrated in my opinion. But yeah, so overall, these Asgard champions have really a high quality, and they set the bar really high, right? So one of the things that we didn't have during this event, but we had in the other events, were relics, right? Relics, like Chimera wasn't released yet. There were no relics in the game. That's why we didn't have no event relics for the Asgard event. Now, moving on to the next one, which was the Alice Adventure event, which started in January. And I remember that very well. It's not that long ago, but at this time, that's when the Hell Hades free-to-play challenge started. So Alice was the login champion, which was absolutely amazing for the free-to-play challenge because we got a pretty solid nuker champion that could decrease cooldowns as well, or increase the cooldown on skills from the enemies. And with the login event for Alice, we also got savage pieces, like savage artifacts, which were absolutely amazing. If you got, good rolls on those pieces, it was definitely a huge jackpot and would skyrocket your progression. So that was amazing at that time. Then we also had the Queen of Hearts, which was the event dungeon boss. And we were able to get the Queen of Hearts, same as we were able to get Odin, which was also the event dungeon boss, by placing first on a champ chase tournament. Now here I remember a little drama when people tried to snipe this champ chase tournament, the first place to get the Queen of Hearts. I think the servers went down like 15 or 20 minutes before this event ended, or this tournament, and a lot of people weren't able to snipe the Queen of Hearts, and that caused a huge, uproar by these people that were trying to snipe but couldn't. Then we had Mad Hatter, which was the fusion at that time. Now, unfortunately, for the free-to-play challenge, we weren't able to get this fusion, right? Because you don't really see the fusion events once you start a new account for the first week or so. And Mad Hatter turned out to be a very solid fusion as well. At first, a lot of people were doubting this champion, and just in general, he's a buff extender. He can place weaken, hex, has an ally attack, can boost turn meter, heal. So he's a really great champion, and I still use him a lot in Hydra, Faction Wars Hard, pretty much anywhere where it makes sense. Then we also had the Cheshire Cat, and this was the one that was a little bit different from the Asgard event because we were only able to get this champion from 10x or 15x events, like progressive events, and a prison pool, if I remember correctly. The only thing that was guaranteed was the soul for the Cheshire Cat, but correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Maybe you know this better than me. Let me know in the comments below if that's right or not. But I think it was the soul that was guaranteed, and the Cheshire Cat was only in progressive events and the prison pool. And then we also had the Knave of Hearts, which can't be seen here, but the Knave of Hearts was basically available through a deck. And in my opinion, the Knave was probably the worst champion out of those 5. I actually went for him, but I don't think I fused him yet. So he's still like in fragment form in my summoning portal waiting to be summoned. So yeah, and with this event, we actually had relics, right? Chimera was just released like a month ago or whatever in December, if I remember correctly. And with this event, we actually had the first event relics, which was the Cat's Gaze. And the Cat's Gaze is still to this day one of the best legendary relics there is. Now, if you take a look at my Alice Adventure relics, I have 4 cats gaze relic, and I wish I had more, to be honest. Like, you can't have enough of those, especially now with Faction Wars Heart. These relics make your life so much easier because it's just free death ignore, right? Like, here I have 18% death ignore, which is like almost a lethal set or a savage set, right? So it's absolutely amazing, and it also gives you crit damage and has some amazing gem slots as well. So it's a really good relic, and it's hard to beat it even with mythical relics. And the cool thing about this event was that there were only 2 relics. We had the Hatter's Reserve, which was kind of like the one that nobody wanted because it's just bad. And then we had the Cat's Gaze, right? So basically, it was a 50-50 chance if you hit the standard group or the Alice Adventure group. And then you only had to hit the legendary relic, and it was a Cat's Gaze. So the chances were actually very good to get a Cat's Gaze compared to the Chaos Awakes campaign, which we're gonna get to in a second. So yeah, overall, this event was definitely a game changer. The Queen of Hearts had an insane impact on the arena for Go Second teams. She would cut in, strip the buffs, and so on. So that was definitely a huge impact on the arena meta. Then we had Mad Hatter, which was also changing the Hydra meta. And we had the Cheshire Cat, which is also a very solid nuker. When I face the cat in live arena, I'm always a little bit scared of it. Now the Queen of Hearts fell off a little bit now with the poison relics. You know, you rather have a Calvalax that is just killing the speed boosters instead of cutting in. So that's when the Queen of Hearts fell off, you know, a little bit. And I barely see her anymore in live arena, actually. But yeah, overall, very solid event, and also the Cat's Gaze had a huge impact on the game in general. And now the most recent event that we had that just ended was the Chaos Awakes campaign. And here we had this, you know, demon theme event with really cool events, to be honest. And one of the, few things that were different here was this coalition event, where the whole community was kind of like farming points to get more rewards and so on. The more points the community got, or the player base, the higher your multiplier was for the points. So that was actually a very nice event, and we got some pretty good stuff out of there. Also mythical relic crafting material. But yeah, let's talk about the champions first. So we had the fusion, which was Tholin. I didn't get a chance to really use him. I never built him, so you know, for me, he was not really worth to invest in. But I saw a lot of players saying that he was fantastic for like starting a new account, right? There was also a promo code where you can get Tholin if you start a new account, and yeah, a lot of people said he was actually amazing. Then we had the login champion, which was Lemnisci, the Goldwing. Compared to the other login champions, I think this was the worst one. Compared to Loki and Alice, I think Lemnisci might be on Alice level or a little bit below Alice level, in my opinion. Then we had Grekos, which was part of a Deck of Fate event. So he was a guaranteed champion. And this champion is also a very solid support champion with a damage increasing passive. And he has decreased defense and block buffs, kind of like a legendary Ugo. So yeah, very solid champion, and it definitely fits in to this, meta right now with all the damage increasing passives that we have from Ashnar, Firo, Claycat, and so on. Then we had Balar, the Lost, and he was actually available through the Heroes Path. We also had some 10x or 15x events for him, or a prison pool even. But he was guaranteed in a Heroes Path, and the cost was around 20 sacreds worth of points. And he actually is a very solid Chimera champion because he does all these buffs and he's activating poisons and placing poisons and getting more ignore defense through activating poison. So he's actually a very solid champion. The only thing that this champion is kind of like lacking is multipliers, right? He doesn't have high multipliers, so you really have to have a great build, like really high stats to make him work in Chimera as a damage dealer. But he provides a lot of buffs, debuffs, and poison activation, and he can smack if you have the right stats. So for me personally, he has a great value that he's bringing, for targeting mythical mats in Chimera. And now the biggest difference between this event and the other ones is that the event dungeon boss was a mythical this time. And man, this event dungeon was a pain. Like, so many people were struggling with it because it was so overtuned. Stage 30 was absolutely insane. And it took like a month for them to realize it and to nerf it and like take all the feedback and then nerf it. And like, yeah, after a month or so, they nerfed the event dungeon and then it was somewhat farmable for like endgame players. Like, even endgame players were struggling very hard. And even then, after the nerf, you still had to have really solid stats and builds and champions to get it done. So yeah, this was by far the hardest event dungeon we had so far. Then I would say the Queen of Hearts was a little bit harder than Odin. Odin was pretty much countered by protected block debuffs, where the Queen of Hearts would take extra turns when you buff. So yeah, I would say Kurosa was the hardest dungeon, then it was Queen of Hearts, and then Odin. And also for Kurosa, we had, I think it was 2 10x events on Primal Shards, which was also the first time we had a 10x for Primal Shards. So yeah, a lot of things changed during this Chaos Awakes campaign. We also didn't have only 2 relics like we had on the Alice event. We had 2 of each rarity. So we had 2 mythicals, 2 legendary, 2 epics, and 2 rares. But I would say the quality wasn't as good as, the Cat's Gaze, for example. Obviously, the mythicals are solid, but, we have the Covetous relic, which I actually managed to craft. And this one is maybe a little bit worse than the Cat's Gaze because it's tied to a buff, right? The Death Ignore is tied to a buff. That's why I think it's a little bit worse than Cat's Gaze. But, and here comes, the huge difference, you can actually fit 2 boss slayers in this relic. So for boss fights, Hydra, Chimera, or whatever, this one might be a little bit better, but it's tied to this buff. So once you lose this buff, it's pretty much useless. You just gain these stats. So if you are able to protect this buff somehow with resistance or whatever, and you can extend it with buff extension, then this one might be better. But it needs a setup, where the Cat's Gaze doesn't need a setup. So it's conditional, but when you're fighting, bosses, or when you're in the arena, most of the times, that's when you need the Death Ignore, right? When enemies have higher max HP. But this one isn't conditional, but it's tied to a buff, right? So once you lose that buff, it's pretty much useless. Unless you kill something, and you can't really do that in most of the boss fights. But then we also had the crown, right? Or we were able to get the crown. I mean, it's still in the game, but it got nerfed. So this one was also a huge drama for a lot of people that were actually owning this crown. Basically what it did was it was giving you a percentage of your speed after adding the aura, after adding everything else. Once you start the fight, you get like a 15+% speed on top, and to be honest, it was overpowered in my opinion. you were gaining so much speed that it was impossible to outspeed anybody that was owning a crown of corruption unless you have it too, right? That was the only way to do it. And a lot of people were complaining about it, that it got nerfed. Now it has the main speed stat, right? Well, I don't know if that's the main stat, but now it has the first stat is the speed stat, and now you get raw speed instead of a percentage of your total speed. And I still think it's good. I still think it's very solid. It has nice gemstone shapes, and I think it's still one of the best speed relics, especially with the crit damage, and you deal 5% more damage when above 50% HP. 5% more damage is a lot, and then when you rank it up, 7.5%, 15, 20, so 25% more damage if you get it to rank 6. This is a lot of damage, and I think it's still good. Like, probably one of the best mythical relics we have. It's definitely up there. The only problem with this whole situation that I have is that the Crown of Corruption should have never got released the way it was, because it was totally overpowered. People went out of their way to get those mythical mats. It's kind of understandable that they are somewhat upset, but it also proves that it was totally overpowered. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting out of the way to get it. So, it does make sense that it's nerfed, but it shouldn't. Like, it should have got tested before they put it out, and it should have never got released the way it was. But anyway, we also had the Skull of Treason here, which is the HP burn relic, but it's also conditional. You only deal more damage to enemies with higher max HP. So there are only a few champions that would benefit from this. And then we also had the Pinion, which was kind of like the one relic that you don't want to see when you pull a legendary. And then the other ones are also kind of mid or bad, where the Gaze of the Nation has pretty nice stats, right? I would give this to this relic. Like, the accuracy is pretty nice and some crit damage. But other than that, the legendaries and epics and so on, they were not that good. I would say those three, the Covetous, the Crown, and the Skull of Treason, were the ones you were really trying to get during this event. So yeah, that was pretty much all about this event. Also, we had some free rewards. I don't know if there was one for the Asgard event if you collected all the champions, but for the Alice event, if you collected all the champions, which included the Queen of Hearts, the Cheshire Cat, Alice, Knave of Hearts, and Mad Hatter, then you got an extra Cat's Gaze, which was absolutely amazing. I only got the Knave of Hearts, the Mad Hatter, and Alice. I didn't get the Queen of Hearts from the Champ Chase, and I also didn't pull the Cheshire Cat, so I didn't get the extra Cat's Gaze, but those that got those champions got this extra gift, which is super valuable. Then for this Chaos Awakes campaign, if you collected all these legendary champions, you didn't have to collect Kurosa. You actually got an avatar, the Skull of Treason, some gems and basalt and whatever. You also got a free gift. And the cool thing here with this Chaos Awakes campaign was that all of these champions were kind of guaranteed, right? There was Bala in the Hero's Path, a little bit expensive, but still he was a guaranteed champion. Tholin was the fusion. Then we had Lemnisci, which was the login champion. And we had Grakos, which was a guaranteed champion from a deck of Fate. So basically all of these champions were guaranteed. And that is what I liked about this Chaos Awakes campaign more than about the Alice campaign, where the Cheshire Cat wasn't really guaranteed. But maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was guaranteed. And also Odin was only available from placing first on the Champ Chase tournament. But yeah, I mean, there were also 10x and 15x events and whatever, but you get what I'm saying. He was not a guaranteed champion, so to say. So yeah, in terms of fusions, I think out of those three, Thor, Mad Hatter, and Tholin, I would say Thor had the biggest impact because it was a really, or it still is, a really solid damage dealer for most players. Where Mad Hatter was also great. He's like part of the highest damage dealing non-Titus Trunda comps. But yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. Let me know in the comments below what was your favorite champion out of those events that you maybe got or tried to get. What's your favorite champion? Doesn't matter if it's the skill set or the looks. Just let me know what was your favorite champion. And also, in general, which was your favorite event out of those three? For me, it was maybe this Chaos Awakes campaign because we had the chance to get this extra gift by just completing those guaranteed events. But it's really close to the Alice event. I really liked the Alice event as well. But the Alice event felt more competitive, where the Chaos Awakes campaign felt a little bit more gracious. So yeah, guys, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really goes a long way. And yeah, thank you for your time. Also, the YouTube algorithm is going to suggest you a video here you might like. And yeah, see you in the next one.